Preparing to live stream the meeting.
There it is. By staying in this meeting, you consent. All right. I consented.
You know what's sad is I'm the host, and yet I have to do the same thing. I have to consent.
They got to
All
cover
right.
their tail, man.
Of course. Well, welcome everybody to this very special segment of the Liberty Roundtable. And you'll notice it's just myself and Brother Kevin. Brother Doug, my fellow host that's usually with me, is unable to be with us. But we're so glad that Brother Kevin was able to come on out and do this interview. As many of you have seen before, we went to our national meeting and did several interviews. But with Brother Kevin, he is one that we personally support on a regular basis, and he is in country right now. And so he's come to us from Romania. And so, brother, we're absolutely excited to have you here with us today.
Thanks, man. I'm just as excited to be here.
And so, so what we usually do on a couple of these is, well, I'll tell them a little bit of something about you, give you a little introduction, and then I'll just let you share with the folks the Lord's calling on your life to the mission field.
Right on.
So you can go as long or as short as you want. So just real quick, I've had the privilege of knowing Brother Kevin for a number of years. In fact, as long as I can remember growing up. And you know, I remember him from state youth assemblies and just preaching. I mean, you name it. We just grew up in the same neck of the woods, and just tickled to death to be able to reconnect and see that he is serving the Lord, or he has called him. And it's just exciting, brother. And why don't you tell the folks a little bit about the Lord's call on your heart to the mission field?
Well, as Brother Kyle's already mentioned, my name is Kevin Hutcheson, and I'm just from good old Florida boy. I grew up, as long as I can remember, I've been in church. And even before I could remember, I was in church. I grew up in a little town called Lithia, a little church called Welcome Baptist Church. Brother Charlie Thornton, he's still the pastor there. He was my pastor growing up. That's how Kyle and I met. We attended the same church camp. We attended the same state youth assembly. His daddy pastored a church in Florida. My pastor was from a church in Florida. And so those churches were very tight knit. We did just about as much as we could together. I remember I surrendered to preach at the church camp that we grew up. I was about 14 years old. And not too long after, I knew that God wanted me to preach. And my pastor then was pushing me because I needed a little pushing. You know, I thought, okay, I surrendered to preach. The rest will just take care of itself. And I quickly found out that's not how it works. And so I remember we were on our way back from state youth. It was the last time that I was there, it was at Oakwood. We were coming back from Oakwood, Brandon, and he hands me a paper, and I've got it in the attic at Mom and Daddy's house. He hands me a paper with 1, 2, and 3. And he basically gave me his entire hermeneutics and homiletics class on a little yellow legal notepad and told me, this is how it needs to be written. This is how it needs to be delivered. This is how it needs to be wrapped up. And said, Sunday night, you're on. You've had enough time, so you're on. And I thought, oh, okay. And I was on. And surprise. And that was probably the best Sunday night the people at Welcome Baptist Church in Lithia, Florida have ever had in their lives, because we were there 3 minutes. That's how long I was up. I've never spoken faster. Yeah, that's it. I told, you know, I surrendered to preach, but evidently I thought I was called to be an auctioneer, because I don't even have an earthly idea. I couldn't recall what I said, what I preached, how I preached it. I just know it was fast. And Brother Charlie stood up and said, well, he was 2 minutes longer than the first time, you know, that I ever preached. And So I grew up preaching, and Brother Charlie was very good about guiding us and giving us the time that we needed to preach. And as I kept preaching, I thought, I think I've got a handle on this thing. And then God reminded me quickly that I do not, that I just need to come back down here, and so I did. And I attended college at the it was Florida Baptist Schools when I first started. Now it's Emmaus Baptist College. And going there was awesome because they put you on a list, and all these churches that need someone to fill a pulpit, whether their pastor's on vacation or they need someone because they don't have a pastor, and you get to go to all these places and preach. And all of these churches are always calling the president of the school and saying, hey, we need somebody. And they say, well, hey, I've got so and so, and you get to go around and preach. And I thought, man, this is cool. And I thought I had it all figured out, and this is where I'm going to end up. And then my first year at Bible college, I met my wife, who is the product of our associational work of missions in Romania. She was one of the first to be saved and baptized by the missionary that was sent out of Florida then and came here. And her and I met, and the rest is history. And we got married, lived in Florida. And I thought, this is awesome because now I'm going to pastor a church in Florida. And there were two that I was considering, and I really felt like they were considering me as well. And the entire 5 years that I thought I had this thing figured out one more time, I had to be reminded that I don't have it figured out. And I still don't have it figured out. And the Lord said, no, I don't want you to pastor. And I thought, well, why would you call me to preach? And then I knew I knew what the call was going to be, and I didn't want it. And God said, I remember we were at our missions conference at Westwood Baptist Church in Winter Haven, our sending church now. And I remember the first night after Brother Doug preached, I thought, oh no. And I know that sounds bad. Okay, I don't want you, if you're listening or watching, I don't want you to think, oh, this guy. No. I thought, oh no, because now I was going to have to do what God wanted me to do. All those years of preaching of have faith, be obedient, scriptural obedience, all the way down the line. Now it's my turn to step up to the plate and do everything that I had told everybody that they had to do. And for the entire week, because our missions conference at Westwood, it runs from Sunday night to Sunday night. And so for 7 days, we're in services, always surrounded by other missionaries. You're hearing other missionaries' testimonies, and you're getting preached at. Notice I said at, not to. Okay, I was getting preached at. It was all coming at me. And every night, back then when our boys were younger, I would usually put them to bed because during the day, I was gone at work and my wife was at home, and she would take care of them, and she would be the one doing all the daily things. And so I'd put them to bed at night. That was our time, and they were scared back then because they were just babies. So I would have to lay in the floor until they fell asleep. And I remember every night from Sunday night until the next Sunday night, I would lay with my face into the carpet and I'll just pray. And I wouldn't pray, Lord, what do you want me to do? Because I knew what God wanted me to do. My prayer was, can you change your mind? Are you sure? I think you've got the wrong guy. And I know about Moses, and I know about all the other guys, and I know that they've offered up their excuses. But in my head, I thought that mine would actually work. And so I just rattled them off every single night. Nope, can't do it for this reason. And then I would go on a 20 or 30-minute rant expounding on that reason why I wasn't good enough. And then the next night, I think, got him, and I would still be convicted. And I would know that I was being called to the mission field. And so the next night, I would find something else. And, I can't learn that language. It's absolutely impossible. It's going to be too hard. And so I'd spend 20 to 30 minutes while the kids were falling asleep in my prayer time there, explaining to the Lord how I could never learn the language. And then the next night, it was something else. And so for the entire week, and the last 2 nights, I was in tears. I soaked the carpet underneath my face because I knew that I was going to have to submit. And I knew that if I didn't submit, it was not going to be pretty, and that God was calling me to do something. And so I submitted and surrendered to the mission field, announced it to the church in Winter Haven, and they sent us on deputation. And that's how we first got to Stevens City up in Virginia, and met all the folks up there and all the other wonderful supporting churches that are still behind us and sending us out and helping send us out and support us while we're here being sent out of our church in Florida. And the rest is history. God proved that he knows what he's doing. And I learned the language in my first 11 months of living here. And we've been here 8 years since, May of this year was 8 years, coming up on our 9th year, Lord willing, next May. And so in the first 11 months, I learned a brand new language, been fluent in the language ever since. I learned how to read it and write it and speak it and preach it. And I can go anywhere I want to now, and, don't need a translator. I didn't take any language classes. You can believe me, you cannot believe me, but I didn't even let my wife is Romanian. I didn't even let her help me because I didn't want any credit or any guff from anybody else. He had extra help. He had an advantage. No, I put myself at the biggest disadvantage and just did this thing called the immersion theory, which you just immerse yourself. So I went everywhere by myself, to the bank, to the doctor's office, to the auto parts store, to the grocery store, to the butcher shop, everywhere I could to learn this giant vocabulary. And one day I'd heard Danny Jones say it. I'd heard Doug say it. They said one day it'll just click. And I thought, these guys are insane. There's nothing clicking up here. And I'm telling you the truth. I woke up one day and it clicked. All the nouns and the verbs and the conjugations and the pronouns and everything that's insanely different than the English language just meshed together, and it works. And we've been used by the Lord to lead folks to Christ, the professions of faith, baptisms. I've been able to do a funeral, which was different here. And in the last 2 years, 2 years ago, we planted a new work out in the village about 15 minutes from our house.
Amen. Amen. And so you said that language barrier, it seemed to be your biggest excuse to the Lord is why you couldn't go, right?
I went 2 nights on that one. That one I drug out 2 nights long because I couldn't do it. I'd heard my wife and my mother-in-law converse, and I thought, nah, impossible, absolutely impossible.
And so when it clicked, you were just like, okay, Lord,
Man, it just clicked, and I thought, and I remember thinking, my first thought, am I in the Matrix or something? How did someone just upload? This cannot be.
And, the wonderful lesson there too is so oftentimes when God calls you someplace, you think, I'm not qualified, but we have to remember that it's God who does the qualifying.
Heard that. Sure enough.
Man.
And I don't know who said it, and it's not as elegant as what you said, but somebody a long time said that the Lord already factored in your stupidity when he called you. And man, if that ain't proved true in my career here.
I don't know if that's a Charlie Thornton or if that was
I don't know who coined that one.
Or if that was a brother Jimmy Madison. That kind of sounded like something he might have said.
It's quite possible, and it's true, every word of it.
And so, it's incredible. Who would have ever thought? And I kid the folks here. I said, who'd ever thought that the Lord would have taken some, country preacher's kid from Bay Lake, and let him pastor, or who would have taken a backwoods country boy from Lithia, right, and sent him to Romania.
That. Send him all the way to Europe.
And you know what? Something I noticed too, you ain't lost your Florida accent.
No. No. I love messing with people here when they hear me speak English. It's always Texas or Kentucky or Arkansas, and you hit them with the Florida and what?
Yeah, they talk like that too.
Where I'm from, they do.
That's right. We speak clear English to one
Swamp is
another.
what my wife calls it.
Swamp.
Yeah.
So, but man, some of the other things that usually folks will ask over there, just obviously the language barrier was a huge thing you had to kind of overcome. And so anything else like that you found difficult with, the food, some of the other things of the culture that God has just allowed to kind of smooth out over your time being there?
Food wise, food here is easy. This is Eastern Europe, and everything here is meat and potatoes. It's very simple. It's not elegant or over the top. It's definitely not Asia. Nobody eats bugs or other oddities at their table. Probably the weirdest thing that Romanians eat would be raw pig skin when they butcher a hog at Christmas after they not bleaching, excuse me, after they scald the hog
Mhm.
and they wipe all the scalding off of him and they rinse him off with the water. They'll cut the raw skin off and just salt it and eat it. That's going to be the weirdest thing that I've seen anybody eat here, but they normally eat just like you would back in the States, just maybe not as elegant.
Have you eaten that?
Tried it, hated it.
Okay. Hey, we country boys, we fry that. We call it pork rinds.
No, they do that too. They take the lard and boil it down, and
Yeah.
you've got and it's absolutely delicious. That's a whole different ball game. But the actual raw skin that 20 minutes ago he was rolling around in, and they just wash it and burn it. It still
Mm.
tastes how you're thinking. That's what it tastes like. I don't care for it. Not me. The food was okay. I was able to deal with that. There are some other things that even to this day I struggle with. In Florida and in the South, we are from a warm climate culture. It's okay to wave at a stranger. It's okay to talk to somebody that you don't know. Here, it is a cold climate culture, and those things are not as acceptable as they would be back in the United States and in the southern United States. So those are some things that I still kind of struggle with, that and the attitude towards children. Here, children run everything. If you think it's bad in the United States, you ain't seen nothing like
Yeah.
over here. There's a kid that comes to our church in the village. This is no exaggeration. His grandmama, if he's laying in bed and he says, I'm hungry, she will come to his room and feed him. And he's 12 years old, and she'll feed him while he lays up in the bed and plays PlayStation or on his telephone or whatever. I've been in church services. This would make our folks just cringe back in the United States, where you're on the pew, the preacher's up there preaching, and I mean preaching, and a child just can't sit still in service anymore. Shoots off to the front, sits down at the altar there, or sits down underneath the pulpit, or just runs and runs and runs, and the parent has to get up and go get them. And all this is taking place during the preaching, and once even during the invitation. And I'm cringing.
Yeah.
Nobody else is phased by it.
I'm sure that your upbringing was a lot like mine. It There wouldn't have been a whole lot of chasing involved. You'd have been caught rather quickly.
Lord have mercy, I wouldn't have made it out of the pew.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have made it out of the pew. And I've seen when you go to somebody's house, it's completely different than how I was raised. When adults are talking, adults are talking. You don't just cut. I have been to many people's houses and we are speaking, and the kid just plops right up in the lap and just starts carrying on his own conversation. And you've got to wait, because the Romanian mentality is they're just children. Let them be. I can't change that mentality. It'll never work for me. So that's probably the thing that still has to be smoothed out the most, would be that.
Oh yeah. definitely. In fact, I don't know if you remember her or not. Fellowship on Bay Lake. I refer often lovingly to one of my Sunday school teachers. Her name was Sister Gladys Kaharski, and she. I remember one time, and I'm the PK, right? I'm the preacher's kid.
Right.
Uh, Took me right out of my Sunday school class, sat me up on the pew right behind the pulpit while Dad was teaching adult Sunday school one time, and tried to convince my dad that that was punishment enough. Of course, it led to more afterwards. You get brought up by your Sunday school teacher and sat behind your daddy.
Yeah.
It's
That was a
not going
fun
to just
walk
end
home,
there.
wasn't it?
Well, it was only 200 feet across the yard there at Bay Lake.
Man,
It was a long walk.
I guarantee it.
I wanted to
But
go walk that 3 mile loop.
I heard that. But here, that's just the mindset. They're just
Yeah.
kids, and so I'm dying on the inside. Teach these kids, but
So, well,
there are some big cultural differences.
man, I tell you, it's incredible. Now, the folks, I know we've said Romania a couple of times, but where at in Romania are you?
We live in a village in a town called Tuncabești. It's about 10, 15 minutes from the capital. We're north of the capital city. And then the church that we've planted is in a village called Buriaș, and it's another 15 minutes west of us.
Okay. And I forget the capital city. Is that Brasov?
Bucharest.
Bucharest.
Yeah, Bucharest is the capital. We're, depending on the traffic, we're 10, 15 minutes north of that.
Okay. Yes, sir. Well, amen. I'm trying to think. I had another question for you, but you know how that works. I tell everybody I call it some timers because it ain't all the time yet.
Heard that.
Yeah. I mean, it's been incredible. And I thank God for the availability of this kind of technology. I mean, the fact that we can sit here and share the work and what God's doing in Romania live right now. It's on our YouTube channel and Facebook, and it's just incredible. And I know those things have their own wickedness, such as most things do. But
Right.
man, I'm thankful that God allows us to use it for His work.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So just to be able to do this, and man, I thank you because I know it's what 7 hours difference.
Yeah, it's 7 minutes to 6 right now.
Yeah, it's almost 11 o'clock here, and so hopefully, here in the near future, we can do this again, and next time y'all are stateside, you have to come by and see us.
Yeah, Lord willing, this last time, we were just there last year, and it killed us.
Yes, sir.
That we couldn't go visit everybody.
Yeah, man. But you're only here for so much time, and there's a lot of people to visit.
Yeah, and last year we got COVID while we were on deputation, and that was slowed us down 2 more weeks. And then the logistics of trying to visit everybody while there was everything with COVID going on, it extra slowed us down.
Yes, sir.
But those that we didn't visit last time are first on the list for next time, for sure.
Amen. Amen. Well, we definitely look forward to seeing you guys in person again. Thankful to the Lord that we were able to get you here and do this interview. I know the people here are excited to hear from our missionaries.
Awesome.
And so we do this again here not too long. We'll take some questions from our congregation and see what they have for you.
That'd be great, man. I'd love to do that.
So, but all right, man. And I can't say goodbye though without addressing the fact you were wearing a Buc-ee's t-shirt.
Oh yeah, he slipped up there in the camera, didn't he? Yep.
Yeah.
Boy.
I went to my first one a couple months ago, and I'm thinking,
Which one
where have
did you
these
go
been?
to?
Trying to think. I think it was it in Georgia?
Oh, Warner Robins. Yeah, right there off 75.
So I was coming back up from Florida up here, and Dad's like, if you get near one, you have to stop.
Man, they used to only be in Texas. And I remember as a kid, when we would drive out to Mississippi to see my cousins, somewhere between Tallahassee and Marietta, there used to be a billboard that said, "You're only 710 miles from Bucky's." And when we were kids, we had no idea what that was. And we thought, why would you do something like that? Now we know what Bucky's is. And thankfully, they're coming outside of Texas.
Oh yeah, they're everywhere. It seems like
Mm-hmm.
now.
They
So
are awesome. They're fun to go to.
tell them they need one in Romania.
I wish. Man, that'd be awesome.
So, all right, brother. Well, hey, I appreciate it. I thank you so much.
Yeah,
Be sure to
man, you're
tell
welcome.
your
Thank you.
family hello and that we love them.
Will do,
Know
bud.
that you're in our prayers, and we look forward to hearing from you guys. And we just pray the Lord's richest blessings upon you guys in the ministry there.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it very much.
Yes, sir. And so, folks, this I guess you could say this concludes the interview. We thank you for coming out, listening. Continue to pray for Brother Kevin and his family, and that's Hutchinson with a ESON at the end. I only say that because when we first were setting this up, I spelt it wrong. So,
It happens.
but continue to remember them in your prayer. Remember the work there. And until next time, God bless.